Hello, marketing team extraordinaire. This is your victim. Heidi Ailey with Jonesboro Locally Grown. And actually today we are kind of missing, it's sad,
It is sad.
Pat Sheets, one of her partners in crime or partners in cookbook, which is your client, the Jonesboro Locally Grown Grow and Cook book. Can't just be a cookbook when it comes from Jonesboro Locally Grown. And Heidi and Pat, along with a lot of other people, are working on this cookbook to gather materials, write materials, organize it, and then turn it over to a designer.
Yours truly.
To turn it into a cookbook, Grow and Cookbook. And you all are going to get the opportunity to work with a real live client, at least she's right now real and live.
Right.
Live from Johnson City to help market it. So you all will have a couple differing marketing pieces that will be an e-letter that will be sent out as, people don't like the term e-blast anymore.
It's kind of violent.
It is. But an e-letter that will go out to a targeted audience, and we'll talk about that here momentarily, and a direct mail postcard that would also go out to another targeted audience, maybe with some overlap there. And we'll talk about that as well. But we wanted to give you an overview, or Heidi wants to give you an overview since Pat couldn't be here today, and she's actually the person literally gathering the materials herself. Heidi's doing some writing, has worked with Jonesboro Locally Grown for quite a long time. I'll let her tell you a little bit about how that all started, although you have a background video from Heidi that includes a lot of information on Jonesboro Locally Grown, and her connection with that at the time was as a market manager. But now we're talking about the Grow and Cookbook. So welcome, victim.
Thank you.
Number one.
And thank you, marketing team, for agreeing to help out with this project. I think it'll be a good learning experience for you, and we will probably get some nice usable materials that we can put to actual work in the real world.
Yes,
so
we hope so.
You can think of it not just as a class assignment, but as something that actually might turn into a product. Is that the correct word, a product?
Absolutely. Campaign.
A campaign, right. So you'll want to know, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the backup information because, as Lise said, she's giving that to you in other forms, which I'm sure you will study, because you need to know the whole context of the organization and how it evolved in order to get the real juice of what is special about this cookbook, which is the most important thing that you need to investigate and understand so that you can sell it, because there are 90 million cookbooks out there in the world, and we want people to buy this one.
Right. I mean, every church, every organization, it seems, puts together a cookbook. So there are aspects of this cookbook that make it unique. So we're going to talk with Heidi about that. But Heidi, can you first tell us your connection with Jonesboro Locally Grown and what you think Jonesboro Locally Grown, what makes it unique?
Okay. Jonesboro Locally Grown started as some extra produce on the back of somebody's truck parked in a driveway. Curtis Buchanan, who is a member of the community in Jonesboro, got the idea from that to start a farmer's market. Let's see, 10 years ago? I guess it is, 10 years ago. It started out in the library of the Jonesboro Public Library parking lot, and grew several years later to move to a side street next to the courthouse in Jonesboro, And it was at that point that I became involved in it, first as a member of the board, and then as a market manager for the Saturday Farmers Market. So it started out as just a Saturday Farmers Market with the farmers coming and selling their produce on the street and the customers coming out and actually being able to talk to the farmers. And our whole mission was to support local farmers. That's what we're about, supporting local farmers and educating people about eating locally. So then the organization was fairly successful, and it's grown to include the Boone Street Market, which is a 5 or 6 day a week, I guess, market that's also in Jonesboro, sells local produce from some of the same farmers that go to the Saturday market and some others. And all of the goods that come into the Jonesboro Boone Street Market are from a 100-mile radius. So it's all local food.
And it's open year-round.
It's
not
open
just
year-round.
In the spring, summer, and fall.
Right. And the farmers market, the on the street Saturday market is open just 6 months of the year, from May through October. So those are 2 legs of the stool. There's one more leg of the stool, which is that there is this event called the Farm to Table Dinner that was created as a fundraiser for at first for the Saturday market, and then when it became more formal, for Jonesboro Locally Grown as an organization. And we have the farmers, we purchase food from the farmers, we seat about 200 people on a great big long table that goes down the middle of Main Street in Jonesboro. And a chef prepares the food, and it's a very elegant dinner outside, and delicious food, and all in support of the farmers. And then people also just donate money with these little envelopes on the table. We make a lot of money that way too, so that helps support it. So we've got these 3 things going. We have the Saturday Farmers Market, we have the Boone Street Market, which is a year-round grocery store basically, and we have this big event which has gotten a lot of regional attention and national attention actually, called the Farm to Table Dinner.
And all that's under the umbrella
of Jonesboro Locally Grown. Yeah. So I've participated in this organization in varying degrees of being totally swallowed up by it or being on the periphery of it. And right now I'm involved in helping move forward this cookbook project. The cookbook is going to try to pull together all of the things I just mentioned about the organization, by having a little section that talks about how the organization evolved, and a section that spotlights and features the farmers themselves with pictures of their farms and words that they have said in interviews talking about their experience as a farmer and how to grow certain things. There'll be little tidbits of how to grow and cook and harvest certain foods. And then there'll be a whole recipe section that the recipes have been gleaned from the farmers, from the members, from the community at large, and they're all organized into times of the year. So we have the kinds of recipes that you would use in the springtime with what grows in the spring, the kind of recipes that you would use in the middle of the high summer, fall, etc. So the whole point is to eat what's growing now and to eat fresh food that's from the region where you live. And it kind of tells the story of the organization as it goes along. Then there's also a little section that talks about the Farm to Table Dinner and a spin-off of the Farm to Table Dinner, which is something we call the 100-Mile Dinner, which the Boone Street Market has been perpetuating. I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. So it's really kind of taking the story all the way from the dirt, through the farmer's hands, into the hands of the customer, into the kitchen and prepared, and onto the table where your friends and family are eating it.
Right.
And that's what's different about it, is that it's sort of explaining a whole culture, and it's showing the growth of the organization. It's giving you concrete recipes that you can actually use that have all been tested. And it's acquainting you with the farmers in a way that's very personal. So that's what's going to make it more than just your ordinary batch of recipes. Also, it's being designed by a very excellent designer, and it's going to be quite elegant. It'll be about this size. It'll be bound this way. We think this is going to be the cover. This is artwork of a local Jonesboro artist. And there will be a lot of nice photographs and design work incorporated throughout to make it very attractive and kind of classy looking.
And yet at the same time kind of
friendly.
Yes,
Yeah.
and fresh and outdoorsy because, it needs to have the flavor or the brand of the market as well.
So where do we hope this will get purchased, and who's going to buy it?
Who's your target audience?
Who's the target audience? And maybe you all can think about that yourselves and give me some ideas also about that. But as far as we've looked into that aspect of it, we think that our members, because there is a membership you can purchase to Jonesboro Locally Grown, which gives you some perks and some discounts. And they're very loyal to us. They love us. And they will probably all buy the cookbook. The cookbook is hopefully going to be a fundraiser for the organization. We're hoping to not just break even on it, but to make some money on it. So there's our members. There's the wider community. Jonesboro is a small town atmosphere. Everybody loves the farmers market, so they're likely to purchase it. We can sell it at the Saturday market. We can sell it at the Boone Street market. Then there's also the Storytelling Festival, which I'm sure you are all aware of, which is actually this coming weekend. First full weekend in October. That brings thousands and thousands of people to Jonesboro. And the Boone Street Market is open during that time and serves special, fresh, wonderful food for the people who have come to attend the festival. And we think we can sell a lot of copies there. It'll be reasonably priced, and it's something they can take home that will be, regional and kind of give a flavor of Jonesboro. Then we also want to use it to give as a gift to our major donors and patrons who have given us some of money towards a project, and we want to send them a thank you and a nice gift. So it might also be used for that.
Which is one of the reasons why I think Jonesboro Locally Grown and its board are thinking in terms of maybe a nicer book with more color pages in it and color images so that it will also make a good gift.
Right. So those are some of the ways we're planning to use it. There may be other things. It can be in the Visitor Center, Jonesboro Visitor Center bookstore. And we might put it in other stores around, just depending on how things go and how many copies we decide to make.
It's definitely going to be a piece that folks that we call foodies will be interested in too, because every recipe in it is going to be, and this is also something that makes it unique, made from fresh ingredients. These will not be, there won't be a lot of canned things.
No, it won't say get one powdered envelope of,
anything.
Salad dressing mix. And, yeah.
Right. Or canned tomato soup.
Right. But it also won't be strange and, exotic ingredients that you can't find anywhere.
Right.
They'll all be things that are in a normal cooking person's language and vocabulary. There won't be any strange things. So anyway, it's a funny combination of things, but we want to really connect the importance of supporting local farmers with what you see on your table. And if you shop at a farmer's market all the time, like I do, I can usually sit at my dinner table and say, those are Jose's turnips. This is Jimmy Sentel's pork chop. This is Dominic's fennel. And I can usually name who grew everything that I'm eating. And that's kind of an amazing feeling that's hard to describe, and that I think people have lost touch with,
Right. Another thing that makes this kind of grow and cookbook unique. And I'll be loading information onto D2L, table of contents of the cookbook so that you can see each of the parts that Heidi's talked about in a little more detail, and also loading some of the sample pages to give you an idea, and it's super rough, of what some of the insides might look like.
Right.
Heidi, if they're going to have these two pieces to work on, if they're writing an e-letter just to introduce people to the product of the cookbook, the Growing Cookbook, what do you think they should focus on in that e-letter? If you get an e-letter too, what do you like an e-letter to be like?
Well, it shouldn't be too wordy. I mean, you need to choose your language carefully and make sure that whatever text you're using has a lot of punch. At one time we were using Know Your Farmer, Know Your Food, or something like that. What other, I'm trying to think if there were some other things that we have used as
That's probably the main catchphrase.
So I guess somehow, and this would be up to you, are they doing visuals too or just text?
Well, they can add some visuals if they want to impress the teacher and to impress you all. It's not required because it's not a design class, but they need to have a concept of what visuals they want included.
Right.
And the same thing with a direct mail postcard.
Okay, so they could describe the visual.
They need to at least describe the visual,
so
if not illustrate.
Try to think of a way to create the arc in people's minds of the farmer and the dirt to the delicious plate of food that's sitting on your table. And I don't know what that might be, a combination of words and visuals. But we somehow want to make that connection. And, you know, the recipes have all been groomed very professionally. In other words, the measurement are used, you know, what would you call it, standard.
It's all consistent.
It's all consistent. The recipes will be professionally designed and displayed. So it'll be easy to cook from it for people who like to cook. It will be familiar format and measurement abbreviations and all that kind of stuff. So I guess it's very utilitarian, right? It's something you can actually cook out of. It's not a coffee table book, okay? It's not a glamorous book with pictures that you just look at and then, you know, go get Joy of Cooking when you're ready to make dinner.
No, hopefully not.
Yeah. So it's practical, it's usable, it's got delicious recipes in it, but it also sort of brings the richness of knowing the farmer and what it's like to grow turnips and when you should plant them and whether they like cold weather or not and how to harvest them. And, you know, so it's knowing the story of your food. The story of your food. Maybe that's story is a word that could be used.
Especially for Jonesboro.
Especially
the
for
storytelling capital of the world.
Right. So I don't know, does that answer that question, sort of?
I think it does.
Yeah.
And how would you perceive having to boil down, food pun intended, boil down that information from the e-letter into just a postcard? That would be images on the front with probably a slogan and just a blurb of text on the back.
Well, again, I think you have to be choosing your words really carefully. And I would use Jonesboro Locally Grown. You want people who are already involved in the organization to recognize where it's coming from. That in itself is going to be a selling point because people who want to support us will buy it. So maybe you say Jonesboro Locally Grown recipes, locally grown food in locally grown recipes, something like that. I think the graphics are going to be really important on the front. What's on the front is going to make a difference.
Definitely.
Also, it might be important to say, depending on who your target audience is, that you're supporting the organization by purchasing this book.
I think that's crucial because a
Yeah.
lot of people care.
A lot of people care and would buy it even if they don't think they're going to use it.
Right.
Just to support us.
Mm-hmm.
So, support your farmer, love your food or something like that. I don't know. Something about it being delicious, and about while it's being delicious and you love eating it, you're also doing something good for the community, for the planet, for the farmers.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good. Heidi's really good with those things. They just roll off the tip of her tongue. Whenever you need words, go to Heidi.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of a win-win-win-win-win. Maybe you could use that. Win-win-win-win-win. Support the farmer, eat fresh, delicious recipes, fantastic dinner,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that, buy our cookbook, support locally grown.
See, she's doing your job for you, copywriters extraordinaire. Okay, well, I think that gives us a good groundwork. I don't know if you can sort through in your head, Heidi, and think of anything that we haven't mentioned that might be crucial to them. But we could also post any additional information on D2L.
Yeah. And, I guess maybe it would be important also to indicate in some way, and I don't know how exactly, that's your job, that it's going to be an accessible book, it's going to be a practical book, and it's going to be a beautiful book. All of those things.
True. You can use it.
Right.
It's full of useful information.
Right, it'll be pretty to look at.
It'll still be pretty to look at.
Right.
And it will be helpful to Jonesboro Locally Grown in perpetuating its own.
I'm convinced. I think I'll buy one.
Yeah, gosh, it sounds like a good idea.
Sounds great.
Yeah, y'all have sold
My
us.
marketing's worked on me.
We've sold ourselves. Now you all need to sell the book to others.
The hard part is to boil it down, like you said. I mean, it's really easy to blah, 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 but how do you get that message whap like that?
Right.
Yeah.
And as we know, people nowadays want everything in, 72 characters or 148 characters or less. So I'm not saying that's all the wording that you have to write, but in that postcard you won't get much more than an Instagram post.
Well, and I think, oddly, when you want to boil something down that much, you have to do more background work.
Oh yeah.
Because you
really have to know.
You
what
have
makes
to
it special.
get the whole context. So read all the backup materials, even though you're just going to come up with 10 words that are going to sell it. If you had 50 words to sell it, you wouldn't have to be so diligent about studying all that stuff, because you could just blah blah blah. But you don't have that kind of space, so you have to really. It's like a good sauce. You start with a whole pot of liquid and you simmer it,
boil it
down till you've got a half a cup of something that's really delicious.
That not only takes talent, that takes patience.
Yeah.
Forbearance.
Right.
So there you have it, from an expert herself and someone who's dealt with Jonesboro Locally Grown and worked for them for a long time. So you will find more information on D2L, and I will be very specific with you on your assignments. So please be sure and read those assignment files extra carefully and all the way through, at least 2 or 3 times, so that you don't miss any aspects of what's required. But I know you're going to do a great job.
And I'm going to look forward to seeing what you come up with, because I've had this sort of relationship with Lise before, where I've been her client for a class, and several times there's been some real gems that have made it to the public eye.
Yes, so it's very possible that your work will get used if they consider it to really target the audience and get the message across particularly well. So that's the challenge. So
Thank you.
thank you very much, and we will get to work. Get to work.